Evening, folks. Well, it's come down to this. Looks like mistakes of the past have come back to haunt Billy Napier's program, as we suspected they might. But today, the news about Jaden Rashada's lawsuit. We'll talk about that some. What else? More policy wonks and more things about the law and policies. But anyway, tonight on the program, we've got David Whitley from the Gainesville Sun. We've got Rob Browne from SEC Sidelines. We'll have a word from Paul Finebaum as well about the Florida program and about Kirby Smart and Loren Meadows all join us tonight on the program. It's going to be a good night. Tell your friends and neighbors. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air, and come join us.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, it's Tuesday night. I'm Buddy Martin. This is the Buddy Martin Show. Glad to be with you again. Tonight, we have some breaking news, which you probably have heard about by now, if you're a Gator fan. The lawsuit, which is not a shocking revelation, has come to bear. Jaden Rashada has shown up again like a bad penny. He's at Georgia, and they're filing a big lawsuit against Billy Napier and the University of Florida. More on that a little later. We'll talk about that also. David Whitley tonight. I'll catch up to him on a few items of interest, and we'll chat with David in just a moment. We've got a bite from Paul Finebaum talking about Kirby Smart and about Florida and about Billy Napier's program, and then we'll hear from Loren Meadows. All happening tonight right here on the Buddy Martin Show. So tell your friends and neighbors it's happening as we go into the portal, the orange and blue portal. It's time to see what talent's in there, and none other than the $5 million man himself, David Whitley. What's up, David? Good evening.
I'm not coming on unless I get that $1 million that you promised me, please.
How much was it?
Million. Didn't you?
Oh, let me write it. I may write it down. I had it down for 750. So let me just make that. So with
Okay.
the 1 million. Okay, I'll have it to you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, that's the way we operate in Gainesville.
I got it. I know that. And what the heck? I mean, you're worth every penny and some more, by the way.
Well, then
Well,
I
David-
won't sign with Arizona State then.
please don't sign with Arizona State. You know, it's funny. I was just having a very good morning today. I was on Shane Matthews' show. We were talking about how things are going well for Florida. And they've been on a little bit of a roll. You and I talked about it last week. They got some good commits. Cormani McLean, softball team played extremely well, etc. All the good news of the spring, and things are beginning to get a sense of a lift. And I'm not sure this is a total debacle, but the news today that Jaden Rashada, who now is at Georgia, and his people are suing Florida and Billy Napier and the UAA. I know you know about it. You probably wrote about it. What's your take on it?
Well, I don't think, as you said, it was a shock. It shouldn't have been a shock that that there's a lawsuit in the works. Everybody pretty much assumed that was the case.
Right.
It was a question of when he was going to file it, and then digging into what the complaints were and what the evidence might be, and if there's any real smoking guns there. The funny thing is that there's no such thing as a smoking gun anymore when it comes to acquiring players with money, because everybody's doing it. It's legal. And the crux, I think, that the most interesting thing that came out of today was the fact that he says that Billy Napier promised him that he would get $1 million to seal the deal on signing day.
Mm-hmm.
And it never, and that never came to fruition because, I mean, all this other stuff, we had known that there's a $13.8 million contract. I mean, so I think The Athletic had seen it, or ESPN, one of them. And so there was no question that there was once a contract between the two parties. And that, John Ruiz in Miami said, yeah, we had a contract the report was $9.5 million, but Ruiz said it wasn't that much, but there's no question that he was basically Florida up the ante and outbid Miami. And the contours of the story we all knew. That they didn't come up with the money. Rashada left, and it was just a matter of time until LSU dropped. Because if you look at it from his point of view, he had, if it wasn't $9 million, whatever, $5 million from Miami in the bank. Florida offers him 13. He says, "Okay, I'll take that," and then they back out, and eventually he's left with nothing, where he would have something. So I mean, I would be a little bit PO too, and saying, well, something's not right here, and whether Billy promised $1 million or not, I mean, that will be interesting if Billy's ever put on the witness stand about this under threat of perjury. But it is funny that in all the evidence they filed and all that, they offered none when it came to that key thing that I think is the most interesting thing that about Billy offering $1 million. There's no text, no paper trail, nothing like that, as opposed to all the other things where they had text between the head of the Florida NIL then and his camp and all that. So I think that it's going to be very, I wouldn't say fun, but it's going to give us a lot to talk about for the next few weeks, if not months, as it's dragged on.
Intriguing is what it is.
I don't think it will have any practical effect on the 2024 Florida football team. I don't think that if you polled the 85 players on that team right now, I think their basic reaction would be, because they all knew about it. I mean, I heard it's going to be a big distraction. By the time this team, shows up in early August for the training camp, I mean, this will be, if not old news. I mean, it will probably have been settled by then. I don't think it's going to be distraction at all, unless by some crazy, unforeseen way, happenstance that Billy Napier's job is threatened by this. But I don't see that happening. Yeah. I mean, the UAA came up and said, they're going to help with the legal fees, and they've known all along what's going to be coming about this. So I think it's just, eventually this will be settled out of court, and he'll get some, I won't say hush money, but he'll get some money. It's just the complete bizarreness of it all. But we shouldn't be surprised at this point with the NIL world that anything is bizarre. But just the thought that you don't have a Georgia QB suing the Florida coach for breach of contract right now. Yeah. It's just only in 2024.
I agree with everything you said there. My thought was no big deal. It was the other shoe we knew was going to drop. We just didn't know when and how much. There's some intimation by some that Kirby Smart, I won't say coerced, encouraged him to file a lawsuit. I doubt that's even true. Why would he want to do that?
I think that's loony talk, because you can be sure that this lawsuit has been in the works for many months.
Yeah, of course. It's just a matter of when and how much. Exactly. I agree. Yeah. And then I also think, I'm like you, I think this team is probably in this age of NIL and lawsuits, and this is a standard operating procedure anymore. Everybody's got a lawsuit going somewhere. And so while it's not nothing, it is something. It isn't devastating. And the thing that I was told by someone on the inside today, not that I have that many people who tell me, but it said the only disconcerting thing was that they had Napier and the UAA together on this. That this would be something that the UAA would be, if the lawsuit came in, they'd be exposed. So I don't know that was it. And otherwise,
I didn't know that. That the UAA. I mean, because I thought that they specifically named Marcus Castro Walker, the head of the NIL.
But he was the employee at that time of the UAA.
Hugh Hathcock and and of course Napier, but not the University of Florida.
Yeah.
And that could be because state schools have all sorts of protections when it comes to what they have to pay on these kind of things.
Yeah.
Famously, there've been some cases where they've been sued for a couple millions of dollars over deaths on football fields, and all they get is 200 because that's the cap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is something of a money grab going on here, but
Yes.
he felt that money was grabbed from him in the first place.
Yeah.
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 And so, it really wouldn't bother me.
6 counts of fraud, negligence, and tortious interference against Napier by Marcus, and also Marcus Kessler Walker, who serves as the football program's director of NIL, Hugh Hathcock, as you mentioned, and Hathcock's Automotive Business are all named in this particular deal. So, and someone wrote that I thought this is interesting. Rashada went a whole year playing college football without an issue after the U.S. situation. Now, less than a month after committing to play for Kirby Smart, the Bulldogs, a lawsuit is being filed. I don't think it's just, I don't think anything to do with one has the other, but it does look like it's more than a coincidence. But that's
he didn't go the whole year without an issue. He had an issue.
Yeah, no, it's a couple of issues, actually.
Yeah, but believe me, it wasn't like he just washed his hands of it. Then suddenly a month ago, someone said, "Hey, you ought to sue him," and he says, "Yeah, good idea."
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guarantee that the minute this thing fell apart, they were going to. There was a lawsuit going to be filed.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And I would suspect that who's his attorney? Name escapes me in Houston right now. Oh, Harden. Who, I mean, in a way, and this is where I think it'll hurt Florida, just from the old optics standpoint, because it feeds into the whole Billy didn't have his act together, and still doesn't. Things are still out of control in Gainesville. Although, I mean, if you look at it, that NIL, I mean, it was a dog and pony show. And when you look back at it, they did not have their act together when it came to these because these deals are being made everywhere, and hundreds of times over.
Right.
This is the one that really blew up in people's faces.
All right, I'm gonna. Yes, I agree, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to say something to set something else up that we can talk about. This morning, as I was having a good morning talk, thinking about the good things I loved about college football, and thinking about trying to learn to enjoy, as we talked about last week, you could choose to have a positive or negative experience or day. I had a really great, I won't say great, really good experience Friday night when I went to the event, the Scholar Athlete event put on by TV20 and Melvin Law, and was there with a bunch of Gators like Spurrier and whatever. Got to see some of these fine athletes, not just Florida athletes, but from all over the 6 or 7 county area. These young people are so smart and so bright and so talented. It's just amazing how, and one of them was Miles Graham. And what an impressive young man he was, just to be around him. His parents were just gleaming. They were so happy, Alicia and Ernest. And I wrote a column saying, this is better than any NIL deal you could get. To have your son recognized as being the cream de la cream, the 1%, academically and athletically, before his peers and others, is a wonderful reward for that family. And of course, those trying to have money. So I took that positive attitude over the weekend with me throughout. I thought, what if we just decide not to be so concerned about lawsuits and policies and even recruiting and all that stuff, and said, let's try to enjoy, David, what we do, covering college sports. This is why we got into it. I talked to Shane about it today. And what if we just, you ever hear of a group called the Traveling Wilburys?
Oh, yeah, all the greats, the icons.
Exactly right. And I said this morning to Shane, I said, what if we got a group together? Can you name the Traveling Wilburys? By the way, just a little trivia. You have any idea who they were?
Well, you got to start with hometown boy Tom Petty, of course.
Bass player, exactly. You got it. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Then George Harrison, who I think was in a band. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, one of those bands.
Did some boy band from England way back then.
Yeah.
A fellow named Bob Dylan, I believe.
Yeah.
Who
I
had
think
who had something of an impact on
Mm-hmm.
things. Then a guy wore sunglasses, and he was not quite as famous as the others because not many people are, but revered in music circles. Mr. Roy Orbison, of course.
Yes, you did a great job.
Right, and really the maestro behind it all was Jeff Lynne from ELO, who was the producer.
I was going to say, who would have thought? Nobody gets Jeff Lynne.
Yeah,
but and the music was wonderful. And for those just in capsule, and Rob was standing by, what they did, it was just by accident that they did this. I think George Harrison was in the country looking for something, needed somebody or something. He called up Bob Dylan. They started talking, and they started mentioning another name. Pretty soon they were playing music together for the joy of it, David. For the joy of it, yeah, not for money, but just because they love getting together and making music. They wrote these wonderful songs and recorded them in a cheesy album cover, like something you get, at Walmart or whatever, And these things, they were kind of secret for a while. They began to sort of bubble out, come out, and I think maybe after George Harrison's death, a lot of us. Anyway, it's a wonderful story about, it's about committing to the thing that you love, and the rest of it be damned. Do what you love and do it well and get the joy. And I wish I could get back to getting the joy out of what I do, which is cover football and cover the Gators. And real quick, let me just tell you, thanks to my sponsor before we go and get our friend from up in Arkansas and Memphis and all over from SEC sidelines. Let's hear a word from. Let me just tell you, I want to play the spot. I want to thank Jeffrey Melton for his support of this program and all the support he does for sports and also the University of Florida. He is Florida's official injury law firm company, but he also supports the NIL program, supports everything about the school, and is a sponsor of broadcasts, and he's been sponsoring this program for a long time. So I want to personally thank Jeffrey for a wonderful night on Friday, which was the Melton Law TV 20 Stellar Athlete Award. Congratulations to all those athletes who won. And I want to say that we need people like Jeffrey Melton around. He makes it fun. By the way, he's also a guy who loves music. He helped start this great Southern Music Hall in Gainesville. So that's what I want to say about that. And let's stand by for a second and go get our friend Rob Browne, who also likes to make music every now and then, up there in the Cherry Grove in Arkansas and Memphis. Hi, Rob.
Hey, I tell you what, there's a lot of crazy stuff. You're talking about, Graceland. You're talking about music is filed for bankruptcy. Y'all heard that? And
I did. I wish I'd like to go out there and buy it. Boy, talk about the ultimate place to live. I'm a few $1 million short though.
My personal attorney, who I use, is the attorney representing Graceland. So I'm going to get some good stuff on that. In fact, I'm getting so many texts. I got another group text from one of my attorney friends from Eufaula, lives in Montgomery. Said they're going to come up there and try to buy Graceland. So look, man, and you're right about the traveling Wilburys. That's the coolest thing about living in Memphis is you can be out in downtown Memphis and go by Sun Studios and see Mick Jagger and Jerry Lee Lewis. That happened about 3 or 4 years ago. A friend of mine just stopped by and he walked up with his camera. And of course, Jerry Lee Lewis is kind of, he's dead now, but he didn't like that kind of stuff. But you will see people like that. I remember seeing U2 recording at Ardent Studios down on the river. And man, but Tom Petty, I got to say this. I went to his last concert in Memphis, FedEx Forum, May 11th of 2017. And we were right up by the stage in my friend's suite. He played for a good 3 hours. And when he got out there, he said, hey, we're going to go all over the place, kind of like an old LP album. How many of y'all ever heard of an LP album? Of course, everybody, yes. And they played he goes, we're going to go over my 40-year career, 3 hours. It was unbelievable. I saw him 3 different times playing the guitar with one hand. I mean, he was that talented. And
the bass, too.
Yeah, and but you're right. The traveling Wilburys, the highwaymen, they just don't make people like that anymore.
And let me
I'm with
jump
you.
in real fast to follow this analogy up. Maybe it's not a very good one. I'm looking at two guys who love what they do. You don't do what you do on this show for money, or in your job, Dave, as a writer, for money. I mean, you get paid, but when you get rich, and Rob, you don't either, nor do I. We primarily do it for the love of what we do and the passion which we have for all the things around us, sports and and athletics and college football. So I thought if the traveling Wilburys can make a group together, a super group, they're the superest of all the super groups, right? Probably. Why couldn't you have like a group of people, college football, who felt the same way? And I've got the name picked out, the Great American College Football Sunshine Pumpers Society.
Is that an acronym for anything?
No, it's not even an acronym. It's just,
okay.
I wish it was. It would be GACFSPS. I don't know what that spells. Okay. But the point being that, or it's okay, you can check your objectivity at the door. You can come in and sit down to a room and do a podcast with 2 or 3 or 4 people just talking about, boy, I tell you, the time I was at a ball game and I saw this happen, and what a great day it was when I saw Herschel knock somebody's head off, and I was sitting there when this happened, and boy, I'll always love this guy for that. And talking about the things that have brought us joy. If I said both of them right now, name me one thing quickly that gave you great joy about college football. Rob, what would you say just in 30 seconds? One thing.
Just getting to go to the games and see my team play and be with all my family, friends, and just the relationships I built over the years. It's just, there's just nothing like it. And you're part of a family, and that's cool to belong to something special, bigger than you.
Yeah, and David, I don't know about you, mine would have to do with the press box. What would be your one thing or moment or special thing about what brought you great joy in college football?
I've always, the thing that sticks with me about going to all these games over the years is the intros of these stadiums. Like at FSU, the planting spear, whether you're a FSU fan or not, that's a great moment. Auburn with the worry coming down, swooping down, that kind of thing.
Colorado and Ralphie.
Yeah, and that kind of, and you just, that moment there where the whole stadium is just caught up in this pandemonium, and there's something so visual about it and so memorable. And at that point, no team has won, no team has lost. There's high hopes everywhere, and you can just be high as a kite, because and how can you not see, even the Miami with the steam coming out, and some of those old Orange Bowl games with that, and those guys coming out, and the fans were right on top of you and just raucous. And you said I'd never been to a Hell's Angels bar, but I felt like I was one there that night.
Guess what we got coming? We got Bevo and the Sooner Schooner coming to the SEC now. How's that going to be, huh?
Yeah, cool, that's something you don't see in the NFL.
No, you don't. And by the way, to me, I said this to Rob before, and probably you, David, just being a young sports writer and going into a press box with all the great writers around me when I was in my 20s. It was like, as I said to you, Rob, going in the Sistine Chapel, and going among these people and being there with them, around them, and watching them and listening, and then reading them. It was amazing. What great job. I thought that would be like some Saturdays on a very cool day in October. You look around at the people where you always say, Lord, I'd rather be here today, right here in this place, in this building, than anywhere in the world, right here. It was such a great feeling. So those are things that are right. All right, so I've got your attention. Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart probably deserves a lot more credit than he's gotten. We don't like to talk about him in a positive way around here. But I checked in yesterday with my friend Paul Finebaum about the state of college football and a few things that he likes and his take on. This is before the whole thing happened with the Rashada, which we'll get back to in a minute. But his comments, he started out with talking about coaches. He talked about Kirby Smart and something about Billy Napier. Here's what he had to say.
I am the biggest Kirby Smart fan in the world.
And why not? A guy's done nothing really wrong. you're going to have athletes get in trouble. Look, you take testosterone and alcohol, throw it together, and things are going to happen.
Sure.
Uh, but I think that the core of it is this is where it gets hard to really sort of decipher what's really there. The core value of the person. Kirby Smart well enough to know he's a good person. He runs a
Mhm.
clean program, and one of his big fans is Steve Spurrier because his guys play the right way. Don't hit you lay out of bounds, whatever. So I think you're right. I think Kirby Smart is. I don't want to say the next Nick Saban because there won't be one, but maybe the closest thing to it.
I think he is, and he's still fairly grounded, and because he subscribes to somewhat of a joyless approach, but it's almost what you have to do is you hit the reset button every year. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and he was able to tell me when I saw him recently. His team is hungry. I mean, his team has gone 3 regular seasons without a
Hungry.
loss.
Wow.
But that one loss, which consists of a terrible officiating call and a fumble, essentially cost them a shot at winning it all for the 3rd time in a row.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing, and now with everything so jumbled up with the 12-team playoff, and not even know anymore what to think about what's next. But I have no clue how to decipher anybody's program at this point in time because it can change by the hour. I know you haven't done really much of a tour of spring ball this year. You made a couple of trips, and now you're going to Destin. Paul, it's just too hard to keep. There's so many variables here. I don't know how anybody does it.
No, I really don't either, and I think that's it's that getting closer to home there with Florida. I think the easiest thing in the world, and I talk to people every day like you do, is to say Florida's schedule is brutal. Well, that's not breaking news, but there are some pieces that are being acquired to help make that schedule less menacing, and I think that's all you can do is have optimism. I feel some optimism, whether it's false or not. We talked after the Graham Mertz interview about 6 weeks ago, and I want my quarterback coming off of a rotten season to be bubbling with enthusiasm, and he was.
Just a quick comment on that. It's too hard for me to see. I'm a little too close to it, but it feels like there is something bubbling up there now. Well, that will decipher into wins. I don't know. Yeah, the schedule is tough, but you know what, Paul? I was thinking. You think it wasn't tough for Ray Graves back in 1964 and 5 when everybody had a better team than him and he had to go out and try to win 6 games? That's a hard schedule, too. So if you don't like it, do something about it. Knock somebody off, beat somebody. And the guy who proponent of that says you can do it is Spurrier. Talked about the other night about how they beat Clemson at Duke and said I would not be the coach at Florida if we had not won that game. So you got to believe it's something.
And
don't
I
you?
think I wouldn't. To me, too many people are concentrating on the wrong part of the Florida schedule. It's the front part that may determine the future. And I don't want to go hyperbole here on you, but I think the Miami game is one of the most important games in modern Florida history because
I'd agree.
a win gives that team a chance to change the narrative. A loss, and buddy, we've both been there the Monday after a devastating loss, and I would not want to be around on that Monday in Gainesville.
All right, guys. Anything here that you agree with or disagree with? I think he's right about Kirby. Pretty complimentary. And David, it sounds like he's a little bit positive on the Gators right now.
Yeah, and that you don't hear that much from the I won't say the drive-by media, but that's pretty much what they are. It's easy to look from afar and say things have been out of control. They're more out of control now than ever because of this lawsuit. But if you really see this day by day, it's sort of like your kids. When you watch them every day, you don't notice them growing up, and you're not shocked at any of this stuff. It's not news. But when you just look at them every 6 months, you go, man, what's it's shocking the changes, and you can't take it. But we've the guys you mentioned, that there wasn't and still is. I mean, what happened today, it's news, but it's not. I just don't think it's going to impact what the reasons people have been optimistic lately. I mean, I don't think Bill Napier's job is any more danger than it was a week ago. I don't think their chances of beating Miami are any less than they were a week ago. all that. I think it's a very, very intriguing, as you said, side issue. But when it comes to what effect it's going to have on the actual product out there, I think it's going to be pretty nil.
Rob, you agree?
Well, I think the schedule this is overrated. Go back and look in 2018 and 2019. There were people taking bets at the window in Vegas that Coach O would be fired by the fourth game of the 2018 season. And there was no optimism going into 2019 to speak of. And LSU reeled off wins against 7 top 10 teams. This is the most overhyped story in college football, is that Florida's schedule this year is the most difficult ever. I've seen a lot of really good teams beat 4, 5, and 6 top 10 teams in the year. Florida's issue right now is everybody's assuming all things are static, that Miami and UCF and all these other schools are going to just be as good as expected. And then there's nothing going on with Florida. They're not paying attention to the pieces that are being brought in. And again, this Jaden Rashada story, I think Florida's ace in the hole is your university president, Ben Sass. Any U.S. senator knows how to get stuff done. I think what's going to happen, I think they'll probably settle. But think about this. $13 million, are you kidding me? For a high school kid, Cam Newton was the number 1 pick in the draft in April of 2011. You know what his 4-year deal was? $22 million. Telling me that Jaden Rashada is as good as Cam Newton? This story, thank God we got 2 great writers, because y'all will go find the story. And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm listening to a national show today, and they're trying to give ESPN.com, some writer up there, credit for breaking the Jaden Rashada story. It was all of y'all. If I'm correct, am I correct on that one? Because y'all are the ones that have been talking about it for the last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the Athletic did a lot on it.
I mean, there's been a bunch. There hadn't been like I don't know if one original, because there've been a lot of tidbits along the way where people had this, had that. But like today, he just filed a lawsuit. I mean, there was no breaking that story.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, it's so this goes so far back. You know, I mean, we were all there when you saw and looking back. That sign-in day of 2022,
yes,
when Billy was delayed an hour and all the names were there except for Rashada, and everybody knew what was going on, you know, because there was some last-minute negotiating going on, and that just points to the whole sort of fraud of what this whole is, because everybody does this. Everybody negotiates with players, you know.
Yeah,
you have to maintain deniability that there was no connection between the official university people and the collective, even though it all goes on. You know, and that's what, you know, one reason I sort of hope it goes to trial. I'd like to see Billy depose and say, were you willing to really pay $13.8 million, or did Hugh Hathcock just go off the reservation and say, I want that kid, I'll pay whatever? Because I just can't believe Billy Napier would think this guy's worth $13.8 million. You know.
Yeah.
Well, who knew how to? It's like when you go to a new home market, a new city. You don't know the value of things. I mean, I went to Denver and I moved out there. I thought, holy mackerel, why these houses cost so much money? Well, the market had gone skyward. You don't know. They didn't know the market back then. They had no idea what people paid for deals like that. Somebody in some room made a quantum leap and assessment with that money, and I don't know whether it was Hugh Hathcock, Napier, Strickland, I don't know. But, you know, they were kicking tires and trying to come up with what's a fair amount of money to give a 5-star quarterback. And they were in desperate straits to turn the recruiting around with some big hit. And Ruiz was banging the drums in Miami. By the way, what happened to him? He kind of disappeared. And
broke.
And then bottom line is that they were playing with funny money. So no one knew exactly how to equate all this and how to relate it. The best thing I saw in a couple of days was I saw a guy who was an administrator, not a coach, in the Black Coaches Organization, who was very close to the program with Colorado and Dion and whatever in the whole situation. And he issued the warning and say, look out, because a lot of these NIL deals that were promised never came about.
Correct.
And now there's a bunch of kids in the portal who don't have any place to go. And that's the sad story. It's this gold rush feeling. These things that people, oh, let's get our money. And it was a story of greed. So we don't even know yet what damage is done there. Maybe Billy was smart and playing that Texas Hold'em a little closer to his vest and not going out there and throwing your money around. Although that one time he did, he got hammered for it. That's what he's got to get. And now it comes back to bite him in the butt. I'm like you, Rob. I don't think and David, I don't think it'll become a big thing, but everybody's got some of that dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
No. I was just going to say what gets me and y'all. I'm going to throw this question to both of y'all. Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. I've got real good information on that one. That's supposedly an $8 million deal. He was a 5-star quarterback. Now, Rashada was a 4-star. And again, are you seriously? He was going to get $13 million. Florida, again, I don't hold back. Florida should never have to do that. Again, as an Auburn man, I look at Florida, again, you have everything in the world going for you. Now, Billy Napier, maybe he's not a great coach, but he's a damn good recruiter. But I'm just curious where the $13 million came from. What I've been told by talking to people with collectives is there's some stuff that goes on to get them there, but nothing can be done in writing till they've been on campus enrolled for a week or two. Now, I don't know. I'm telling you, this is, friends, you both wrote, remember David last year, Franz wrote that thing in Gator Bait. We're going to have some crash and burns to get this thing under control. Here we go. And this is, so wait a minute. Southern Cal's going to give Reggie Bush his Heisman back and they're going to go try to punish Florida. I think Ben Sass is going to stand up for Florida. I think he's going to, I just don't think Florida's going to get hammered. I don't think that will happen. Yeah. I think this kid is being put up to this by some scurrilous people. That's my opinion.
I don't think so. I think it was obviously lawyers from the beginning. They were going to do it like David had said. This was going to happen. It's the other shoe dropping. It's part of the process now. It'll be happening all over the country. And this is just the way it is right now. But
exactly.
Stop you for 1 second. And David, I want to get your take on that too. Let me tell you about Titan MRI, and I want to bring Loren Meadows in here, the coach, to join the conversation. And I'm like you, David. I don't think it's the end of the world. Titan MRI is North Central Florida's newest premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. And the good news is for you, if you have busy hours and you can't get there to get your MRI, they'll make you a time, a night, weekend, whatever, when you can come there and take part in this and get your MRI. And you say, well, I don't have insurance, but I need to have this done. No problem. They'll take a card or check or cash, whatever there. They'll have to have the insurance. And it's not really that bad. I've seen the prices on them. So I would suggest if you're in need of an MRI, you go to titanmri.com and find out what they do. That they've been there a while, and their customer service experience is off the charts. They know people have a busy life. They need accommodations. They're working hard to help it make it easier for you to get this medical procedure. So check them out. Go to titanmri.com. All right, go ahead. It's your turn, David, to respond. I'll bring Loren in here.
Yeah, when you said that this happens a lot of places, and it has, guys who were promised money and they didn't get it. I think that is the legal angle here, that guys like Rusty Hardin see this as, you remember when there was the big tobacco, you put up billions of dollars and set for people that had cancer, and then, the asbestos industry. And, lawyers said, all right, I need to go out and get clients on this thing. And so this is the first. And so Rusty Hardin basically is saying, he'll make as big a deal about this as he can. And, he should, as a lawyer, letting people know, hey, come to me. I will file this for you, And I mean, this is going to be a growth industry for the legal profession, because, could be hundreds of kids who feel they got jobbed by the NIL stuff, and they'll call, and it's It's sort of like suing, you get hit by a car or whatever. It didn't cost you anything. They'll get 30% of whatever your settlement, so they're happy to take your case. So I think that's just, we're just seeing the start of this. And, Rashada, he's sort of like patient zero, the first to file it, but he's not going to be the last.
Lauren, jump in here. You know what's been going on with Rashada? Our conversation was earlier is how impactful will this be on the program now. As I said in the opening of the show, it seemed like things were going Florida's way the last 3 or 4 weeks. Got a good news. The commits they got from the wide receiver and Cormani McLean, stuff looking really good for the spring sports program. And Florida getting on a roll, and now we have this news that they're facing a lawsuit for over the whole Rashada situation. What's your take on it? What do you think will happen, and how much impact will it have on the field on Billy Napier?
Well, I'm going to start and say I don't think it have zero impact on the field, so we can get that out the way. Obviously, it's not a good look, but surprisingly, I'm going to side with Billy Napier and the University of Florida on this one. And the reason is that the spirit of NIL was the fact that these young men, women were coming in and they were, they couldn't go out and make their money the way that they wanted to. And then now you got this young man who supposedly negotiates this deal and deals fall through. My other life, there's a lot of promises always made. Nothing's really signed and things fall through. Now all of a sudden he's a vulnerable kid. But he or the people around him were aggressive enough to negotiate what they thought was a great deal. And, keep in mind, none of us really know what the NIL rules are. You got federal rulings, you got state rulings. So what precedent is there going to be, like David said, for Rusty Hardin to really go in and lean on and say that rules were broken or there was some type of fraud or anything like that? Because on the surface, yeah, it looks bad and things like that. But now you got to go to court and you got to prove that. And my thing is, you can go and say, yes, we might have had a gentleman's handshake. We might have had a lot of things, but that doesn't constitute a lawsuit. And I think that that's one of the things that in this case, I gotta go with Billy Napier. And I don't know what Billy Napier is saying. I don't know what he's thinking, but to me, it just seems to be, 800,000 was good enough supposedly to get you in the Sun Devil uniform, and that wasn't good enough for you. So now you went to Georgia for an undisclosed amount, and now you're going to sue Florida. So to me, it's one of those things that on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, it's a big story. It's sensationalized, but you got to get into a courtroom or you got to negotiate. You got to put the facts on the table. And I just think at the end of the day, there's just going to be a lot of, well, what do we do with this here? And it's just like people with NIL now. What do we do with all this? They're talking about in a couple of years that the schools are going to be able to negotiate and pay the players. We're headed that way. But some of that state ruling, some of that's federal rulings, and I just think it's a lot of gumbo in the pot that in this case is going to lend itself to a lot of hearsay that I don't think ultimately could lead to a verdict or a judgment of any kind. So, and if I was the University of Florida, I definitely wouldn't settle out of court or anything like that. So I'm kind of behind the Gators and Billy Napier on this one.
What happened today is they did the Big 12 jumped in and has already signed off on this whole thing of revenue sharing. The Big 12 president's chancellor voted to approve. The proposal was expected to be a multi-million-dollar settlement in the House versus NCAA. And now their approvals another step toward resolution in the landmark case to reshape college business model. If this is approved, the revenue sharing would be optional model for power conference programs. Potentially $20 million a year would be distributed directly to the athletes. Wow. I missed that somehow, guys.
Well, that's the suit. And if the NCAA loses, it could cost them $4.2 billion. So David, you think about that. And that's 15 to 20 million per school. But The NCAA has no subpoena power. They go strictly on circumstantial evidence, but because you're a member of the NCAA, you voluntarily have to comply as a member if they ask for information or evidence or whatever. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but my attorney, Jack Turner, who I have on the show regularly, said the number one thing the NCAA has to be concerned with is antitrust laws. So, David, that's the number one thing, and you can't deny anyone the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah,
that's what it all boils down to.
And that explains why the NCAA enforcement division is basically out of business right now.
Yeah,
because Virginia and Tennessee were the first to sue because of the Nico Mazzaley thing, and I think Florida joined the suit last week. And so, the one group that should really be upset right now is FSU, because they were the only school that has ever been nailed for violating NIL rules. And it was over an assistant coach giving a prospective player a ride to meet his NIL guy, and they got 2 years probation and lost some scholarships and all that. And then, then the NCAA comes along and they get slapped with these suits and they, all right, well, we're not going to enforce it anymore. We're not. And so everything's on hold. And I don't think they're ever going to enforce it, because if they do, they're going to have to hire, you hear about 198 IRS agents hired. They're going to have to hire double that in the NCAA to get everybody who violated that NIL, sort of like a separation of church and state, where the schools had nothing to do, wink, wink, with the NILs. And so it may go down the way it looks. FSU is going to be the only one who ever got nailed for an NIL violation.
Yeah, it's kind of like being in jail for a DUI and found out they're letting guys out for murder one. You say, wait a minute, what happened to me here? It's crazy. Well, go ahead.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that Rob hit it on the nail. I think some people, they confuse, like Rob said, and I agree, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not the guarantee, the pursuit, which means that you go in there, you talk about something, you don't always get your way. And that's where I think that this is, even though that ruling that even the Supreme Court voted 12-0 to really let this thing, open the floodgates, it's based upon the pursuit of happiness, not the guarantee. Yeah. So, I think that's right. That's right on the head about where this thing is going. And what people are going to have to realize is everybody, and that's the thing, everybody ain't going to get the same slice. And you got to live with that. We live with it every day in the jobs that we do, but everybody ain't going to get that slice. And I think that's going to be the same rules that have protected these athletes can work against them when you put it in a specific space. And that's where I think the athletes and the families and these representees better get ready, because those same rules that have helped you are going to work against you when it comes down to some of this litigation.
Correct. I agree.
Rob?
Yeah. I'd agree with Lawrence. Again, he's right. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just saying that I know a lot. My grandfather was a lawyer, taught law, and was a judge. Bottom line, the $13 million, that's insane. Look, we all are talking to people off the record on these collectives. And I've talked to one that's an attorney, and he said, look, I walked by the coach, our head coach. We can't even acknowledge each other because we have to do that. Like in the public finance business and my other job, there's NDAs signed all the time. Mm-hmm. Man, there is stuff that I know. It's not client attorney privilege, but it's stuff that I know about my clients. I can never tell people. And I really believe this. I think what you just said, Tennessee with Nico Iamaleava, it was Florida State 30 years ago that was the first school to get really smart. They hired attorneys from Shawnee Mission in Kansas City and that played golf with the people that ran the NCAA. Remember that, David? I think that's how Florida State, remember the old joke, when there was a convenience store robbery in Tallahassee, they'd say, all right, hold on, did you get a jersey number?
Yeah.
Lauren's too young to remember that.
Oh, I remember Publix had an issue with that too. So
Yeah.
later on in life. So yeah.
But again, I don't hate Florida State, but you got to laugh about it. I mean, the old joke when Brent Fullwood was at Auburn and he missed 6 weeks of school his senior year, and the eagle died that quarter, and the joke around campus was that was his job, was to feed the eagle on his way to class. That's terrible.
Or on his way not to class.
Yeah, we got to laugh at ourselves. Okay, I love Brent Fullwood.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell that famous story. I don't know the guy's name now. You might remember it, David. Back in the day, I believe it was a Kentucky player who was 7 feet tall, 7'1" or whatever it was. You know this story? And he went in and with a mask on and to rob a 7-Eleven. Like they didn't know who he was. And they said, the guy called his first name and said, "Billy?" And he said, "It's not me."
Yeah. Of course, if nothing else, the NIL these days, kids don't have to rob 7-Elevens anymore.
That's true.
No,
that's true. All right, so now I'm gonna have a little drafty session here this morning. This morning I did this, and I want you guys to, or maybe not, if you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. I shared this earlier with David about the love for what we do. Now, some of us, like Lauren, have day jobs. We do that, but what we do here, what we do when writing and whatever covering, is we do this for the pure joy of it. I mean, if we get right down to it, we do the show for the pure joy, plus the great money you all make. Yeah. So we're doing this because we love it. And what happens to us in the media when we get so ensconced in things like this, policies, NIL, all these lawyer talk things, is it kind of takes the fun out of it for some of the fans. We have a tendency to call the fans idiots and whatever, but they're in it for the fun just like we are. And the joy is what brought me into the game originally, and probably all of you. It's the joy of it, being around it, writing about it, getting to know people, relationships. That's the great joy. And I use this as a stretch, but I thought, well, people who do things that they love because they love it. I thought about the Traveling Wilburys. And David was able to name every one of them. These are world-class, iconic musicians who got together and formed a band. And I don't know how many you can name, Rob, maybe all of them. Can you name them? Traveling Wilburys?
Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne.
That's a good one.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to think here. Golly. Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and there were
Lauren, can you jump in
George Harrison. George Harrison.
That's right.
Okay.
And those Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
That's correct.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, and I got 4 of them.
Yeah, you guys went well. Of course,
but that ain't 5.
I'd have got them all except Jeff. I wouldn't have got Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne's the hard one, and that's David got
that. Jeff Lynne's the
Rob
one.
got it. What a great ELO songwriter, whatever. But I mean, the reason they got together, as I understand this, and I was late coming to this. It happened in 1988, and I didn't really get into it for another 10, 12 years. When my daughter Laurie got into it and started telling me about it. And I knew about Tom Petty, but I didn't know who were the Traveling Wilburys. I didn't know what they were.
Incredible.
And I started listening to their music, the all-time super group in music, really, if you want to say it. And they were there together, not for the money. They were under contract. They couldn't really legally even record, supposedly, right? Am I right about that? So they started making music, and they taped it. And I don't know exactly the whole story, but the music started coming out. And they released an album like had some kind of cheesy album cover on it that was like out of Walmart, low key. And these songs began to surface. And I believe when George Harrison died, some of this stuff in his estate started to come out. But what incredible music. And you can listen to it all day. Whether you like that kind of music or not, you have to admire the quality of those people coming together, being the passion of what they did, being the bond. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if we had the traveling Wilburys of college football writing and reporting? This morning I drafted Shane Matthews. I said, I want to start something called the Great American College Football Sunshine Pumpers Society. By golly, it's okay to be positive. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to embrace the fun. It's okay to talk about certain games and players and things. And it puts the joy back in for me. So if you guys want to join me on this, Shane's already in. You're the next three guys in the Great American College Football Sunshine Pumper Society. No dues. Just do it when you're happy. And sometimes we'll call up and we'll say, hey, let's talk about a great thing that happened back in 1984, or it could be yesterday, but something that you really, really like, and it will always change your life. Who's that?
Can I be Orbison? If we're sort of mirroring the.
It's negotiable. It's negotiable. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, David can be Orbison.
You probably want to be Jeff Lynn or Dylan because they're only two that are still alive.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want to be Jeff Lynn with the bucket hat. That hat is in the Ray-Bans. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Hey, let me say something real quick.
Wait, I got to get everybody signed up here. I didn't hear Lauren commit.
Oh, you know it, buddy. You know I'm committed. You do. I mean, you ain't have to ask.
Rob, are you in?
I'm all in, 110%.
Right,
Simple
David,
town. Remember our little town? That's it.
Yeah. All right. That makes five of us with Shane, and it's official. We have a membership for the Great American College Football Sunshine Pumpers Society. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now go ahead.
All I was going to say was Houston Nutt was on last week, our show, and then we talked to him at the Touchdown Club. One of his players at Arkansas, Rhett Lashley, who's coached at Auburn and been around a while. He's the head coach at SMU. They got everybody on the team and some walk-ons in a room and gave everybody $35,000 base pay. Okay. And you're going to start seeing more. You've got a viewer because he watches our show in the morning as well as your show. This guy, Steve Johnson, Boomer Sooner. Oklahoma's doing it. Barry Switzer's 87 years old now and is still very active. But, I'd like to see a traveling Wilburys version of college coaches. You could get your Steve Spurriers, your Urban Meyers, Gene Stallings, get Nick Saban, get some of these coaches that are out there, Danny Ford, going around telling people why we love college football so much. Look at the people we meet through it. I mean, I'm lucky as hell to get to meet y'all through this. When Buddy first came on the show, which way you going? Hey, we're going the way the old Gators go. That was the funniest thing. That was September 11th of 2021 on the way to the Alabama-Florida game. But it's the stories. I mean, it's not Sunshine Pumper. I don't allow negative thoughts in my mind. I just don't. It's a waste of time. And I'm in charge of that. So
it doesn't mean you can't say critical things.
Sure, you can.
It's like family among each other. But you go into it with the idea, like Dave and I talked last week, you're going to write a column, you have an option. Which way do you want to go? Well, there's good reason to be happy and be positive. Why not be happy and positive about it? And give the fans, there's two people who popped on right away here. Perry Mason, the last one, said, hey, I want to be part of that. So I think it's what people want.
I think
it's just, you have to be critical. Yeah.
Well, and it's about loving it. It's about loving the game.
There you go.
And like I said a million times, I know all this is a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of fluff, and it gets people jammed up. But you guys have heard me say it enough. As long as the field is 100 yards long and 53 in the third wide, and it's still 22 guys out there cracking skulls for 2 or 3 hours on Saturdays, at least you got that. And what I would encourage people to do is, and like Rob said, go around and remember why you love football, and don't let that take you away, because no matter what happens, we are going to get that for the foreseeable future. So latch on to that and hang on to it, because it is a sport of kings. It makes a man, and I don't mean a man, a tough man, but what you learn and what you get from being a part of this game is invaluable. I mean, you can't put a price tag on it, and that's what you got to lean on. You got to stay true to that.
That's good stuff. I'll give each of you a final thought. That was pretty much Lauren's. So let's go, Rob, and let's go, David. Your final thought, closing the first meeting of the Great American College Football Sunshine Bumper Society with these thoughts.
Well, just get out and go to as many other schools as you can, and you'll realize they love it too. And
Amen.
That's what makes it so much fun. That's what makes this show, me getting to do this show every day, so much fun. It never feels like work. Managing people's money, I love that. That can be work sometimes, but you know what? It's the love, all these other, and if you didn't realize it in 2020, how much we need each other, then you're not very aware of what's going on around you. So you know what? We're going to get through this. This is just temporary. It's always darkest before dawn. This Rashada suit may repulse so many people that they just say, you know what? We want our game back. And who owns college football? Y'all say it all the time. The fans, David. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you a minute ago.
Oh, that's all right. And part of what we do also, you love football, but if you love your school, and so many people do, this week has been sort of eye-opening to me because everybody, everything is so football-centric in our world. But Monday there was a press conference for the Florida golf team, which is going to NCAA this week to defend its championship. The Florida softball team, of course, is playing this weekend in the regional. And today went out and talked to the Florida lacrosse team, which made the Final Four for the first time ever, or second time ever. And just talking, and I apologize to the coach. I said, I've been here 3 years, never met you. And you've had one of the most successful programs, on campus, but also one of the most low profile because people don't pay attention. But, if you just want to get back to the roots of college sports and just talking to her and talking to, a couple of girls that got up there, and, it really just reminded you that, I almost felt like it was a throwback to the 1950s or 60s. They just love being here, love each other, love their game. And they all said, I love my school. That's why I came, I came here and I was blown away by Florida. And, if you just love sport for the just for the purity of sport, it's not just football, it's all these other things. And it's all happened to be happening this week, with the golf and the NCAA, and tell you what, if Florida wins the lacrosse championship, that would be like Alaska winning the surfing championship. Because
it can happen.
It has been dominated. No team south of North Carolina has ever won it in 40 years. And so there's a lot there's a lot of sunshine out there. You just got to find it.
Well, I ran into someone Friday night, and Miles Graham, if you haven't talked to him or been around him or even read about him, I encourage you, because his comments, although his father didn't direct him and didn't try to influence him to go to Florida, as you know, Ernest was a fabulous football player for Florida. His dad had a big impact on him, and he talked about Miles about coming to Florida. And by the way, he's like a 4.8 or something, and he's a world-class player. And matter of fact, this morning, Shane says he might be as good a high school football player as I've ever seen. And you talk about somebody's going to have a big impact on the program. His character is off the charts. Just to be around him in the room on Friday night and see the reaction to him, and then read his quotes about how great, you'll never have to worry about me because I'll always love the orange and blue. It's my dream school. I'm here. And this is what we want to hear from players. We're so tired of hearing about NIL deals, whatever. I know everybody can't be a legacy player, but boy, how refreshing it was to hear that. And that's all about so dead gummit. We got to get back to hearing more of that. We really do. So anyway, Great. You got a final thought, Rob? You want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, we're going to have Chris Moore, who'll be coming back for his 5th year at Auburn on the basketball team, came out of Arkansas, number 2 player in the state, ran into his brother in the Cracker Barrel in West Memphis. And he's going to be on the show with us tomorrow. And he goes, man, he just loves the school. I mean, his NIL is he's a kinesiology major. He's had a couple of injuries, and he's getting to work with Dr. Andrews and Andrews Orthopedic Group. David, Lauren, y'all know that. That's what NIL is all about. And I said, and I got his business card, and I can't do anything with Chris. I'm gonna have him on the show, but point is, there are a lot of great stories out there. Do yourself a favor, read. It's like lifting weights with your brain or running. It's great for you. Amazing what you might. I learned so much stuff from y'all. I thank you for having me on.
Hey, thank you, Rob. Good stuff from you. Good stuff from you, Lauren, tonight, and also David. Thank you guys so much. We're now convened. The Great American College Football Sunshine Public Society meeting is over. Have a great night, guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Night. God bless you.
Good night, Will Berry.
It's going to be fun.
Good night, Bob Dylan. Okay, good fun. It's good to have some fun. Folks, I want to thank you for the support we get from our sponsors. We always love Meldon Law, who's been with us a long time, Titan MRI, and of course the great people at Renstar. I was texting back and forth with Joe Sorrentino today. His son was obviously a Gator and a guy that I saw play under Urban Meyer, and their family has been involved in Gator sports for a long, long time. And I wanted to say thank you to he and Mary Brantley, the wife of Scott, for what they do for the community in Ocala, and also both in the community and also in the healthcare industry. They're looking out for our interests. They're conducting clinical trials regularly there in Ocala at Renstar to get data and information they can send off to these large companies to get database stuff and get information on how to better treat us. They believe in clinical trials because they help bring new therapies to the public safely, and they would not exist without you, the volunteer. So if you care to volunteer, go to renstar.net and find out if you qualify for some of these. There have been over 700 of them over the years. And if you decide to participate, you could be receiving study-related medical medications and procedurals at no charge to you or your insurance company. And you might gain access to new investigational medications, and you could be paid for time and travel. I encourage you to seek it out because it benefits you, us, everybody. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. I'm Buddy Martin. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching The Buddy Martin Show. Have a great night.